Today's message from Dr. Christian Sorensen was recorded May 5th, 2019, and it's titled, Healing the Past, Affirming, I am free to fully express myself. And today we welcome back the spirit, voice, beauty, and artistry of Nadine Risha, who can be found on our website or on Facebook. And of course, you can visit us on our website at seasidecenter.org. And you're always welcome to join us in Encinitas, California sometime on a Sunday, where we always, as you can tell, have great music, the spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that await you. And happy Cinco de Mayo.
Good morning, Seaside. How's everybody today? Love it. Me too. Thank you. It is my honor to introduce our guest artist, and we just love when she's here. Not only is she, and I hope it's okay I say it, I said it first service, I forgot to ask beforehand, but she is 5.5 months pregnant, if you couldn't tell already, with twins. So we're so glad to catch her before she is going to be double-fisted with babies. So we're so glad she's here to join us, be here with us. I do also want to mention she's part of a really interesting, beautiful vocal group called Starlight, and Starlight Foundation. And every fall they host a choir from Africa. So this coming fall they're hosting a choir from Kenya, and they're going to be going on tour on the East Coast. So keep a lookout for them. So hopefully when they're back in the West Coast, so we can catch them, and it sounds amazing. So, but we were already given an incredible taste this morning, right? Her call to worship. Woo! I felt like I was elevating in my seat, It's just beautiful. And so we're so grateful that she's here with us today. Please, let's give a warm Seaside welcome to Nadine Risha.
Good morning, Seaside. Good morning. All right, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This song is called Lighten Up the World.
All the love we feel spins away the fear. Walking up the ladder, emanating power. Blessed Holy Spirit, guide us on our way. For we are courage and we are freedom for all the people. As we lighten up the world, yes, we are masters and we are heroes for all the kingdoms. As we lighten up the world, give me all your burdens, give me all your sadness. You'll be filled with laughter only when you say that you are holy water, you are highly favored. Blessing all the mountains, valleys, hills, and plains. For we are courage and we are freedom for all the people. As we lighten up the world, yes, we are masters and we are heroes for all the kingdoms. As we lighten up the world, as we lighten up, go on and show that love's the way. As we lighten up, have faith in every word you say. As we lighten up, give up the stories that we made. As we lighten up, go on and light the on a wheel, spinning through the cosmos. All the love we feel spins away the fear. For we are holy water, we are highly favored. Blessing all the mountains, valleys, hills, and plains. For we are courage and freedom for all the people. As we lighten up the world, yes, we are masters and we are heroes for all the kingdoms. As we lighten up the world, yes, we are courage and we are freedom for all the people. As we lighten up the world, yes, we are masters and we are heroes
is Nadine Risha +2. My goodness, that is just beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. How fun to have you here. Oh, wow. Welcome back. Just back from Egypt, I understand, right? And Kenya. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, my goodness. What a start. I'm sure they're going to come out singing, too. That first call to worship, that chant, I envisioned myself just in the pyramids, just hearing that reverberation going through there. I was elevated, as you said, or just lifted to a higher place. Thank you. That was magical for sure. Nadine Risha. Wonderful. So this morning's message is healing the past, as we heard. And this whole month, this whole year, we've been focused on healing. And what is essential is that we are able to really work on letting go of the past so we can be present. But what happens is sometimes the past is just handed to us and we continue to carry it forward. And there's a story that goes at the beginning of civilization, we spoke only one language. And in the town or the civilization of Uruk, which is now in what's known as Iran, there was just this one language, and the people were just a clan and a tribe, and together and connected and communicated, and all seemed well. And together they had this united vision of building a real tall landmark, a tower that went as high as possible, so that no matter where anybody went, if they got lost, all they would have to do is turn around and they would see this huge towering expression and they would be able to find their way home. And so the people began this project of building this real tall expression, and it took a lot longer than they thought. So they were in the third generation of building this particular tower. And by the third generation, those grandkids really were not into it. It was grandma and grandpa's vision. And to them, it was only a chore that they had to do, that they were no longer in it. And it is said it had gotten so tall that, it took a year to carry a brick from the bottom to the top. And it was getting up there, yeah. And they had gotten, one day they were carrying a brick up and somebody fell. And they mourned the loss of the brick more than they mourned the person. And it was at that point there was a problem. When all of a sudden the project or the brick or whatever it was you were up to became more important than the person, there is something that has gone astray. And those grandkids who were doing the task that they didn't want to do decided they would climb the tower and loot heaven. And after they looted heaven, you know the story of the Tower of Babel, all of a sudden God was not pleased and he confused and confundeled and basically took away their common tongue where they could no longer communicate with each other. And once the communication was lost, the town and the tribe split up and they ran off to different parts of the world and began their own civilizations because they could no longer commune and connect. And when we, in our life, and really the medicine of this story is that when that brick becomes more valuable than the vision, something needs to be adjusted, something needs to be forgiven, or something needs to give, or there's something that has been brought forward that is no longer serving. There's something that has become more valuable than that soul and that spirit, and communion and compassion and caring and connection is the key. And when that is gone, it is time to slow down and say, hey, what's going on here? What do I need to see? Because something needs to shift. Something needs to move. And in this thing called life, things happen. I mean, have you ever gone just full out for something and it didn't turn out the way you had expected? Few of you, me too. And anyway, whether it is going for a dream or a vision that is so grand and you put it all into it and it didn't work out, or you went for a marriage, you put all into it and it didn't work out. You put your all into a project and something didn't happen, and all of a sudden you are left in a place that didn't look like where you were going. All of a sudden you are in this and you're holding on, you're trying to make things happen, and it's sometimes time to realize I need to give, I need to forgive, and realize that right here isn't where the healing's going to happen. That I need to step into the next chapter. I need to step away from what was and realize what was or what is there is no longer where the healing is going to take place, but there's something new that wants to emerge. That there had been a vision to build a tower. There was a vision to build your dream that took you or took a generation from where you were to where you want to be. And now there is something that transpired that says, you know what, there needs to be a shift. Something needs to take place that is different, because it is no longer relevant to be doing things the way you have been doing them. You know, there are some people that still write their sermons by hand as opposed to on the computer. Hey. And they look at you, what's that about? But what I realize is sometimes the pain, or Mark Nepo, wonderful poet, writer, he said that sometimes the pain or the suffering is what chips the seals off the eyes. It chips the seals, it chips the covering, it chips us from not being able to see. When there's pain and there's a challenge that is going on, when all of a sudden the compassion has gone and the brick or the project is more important than the individual or the heart and the soul, there's something we need to pay attention to. Because when you don't, that something festers. You can call it bitterness. You can call it resentment. But all of a sudden, as that something is working in the soil underneath, there is a sense that, I gave it my all, it didn't work out. Or you got a doctor's report and it didn't come back like you wanted. And God, I prayed, I believed, and it didn't work out. All of a sudden you feel that there is a betrayal, and there is something inside. It's natural to feel the pain and the bitterness. But what is important is you don't allow that seed to grow into a root. Because if it begins to grow and it begins to fester, it's under the surface and you don't see it until there's these little sprouts that come up, until these little issues come up. When all of a sudden something comes up and you realize that this is bitter. And the bitter fruit comes from a bitter root that grows underneath the surface. Which is why in Hebrews it said, uproot the bitter root before it creates the contamination. Before there's a problem, before there is an issue, before it can begin to contaminate your life. Because I'll tell you, there's people that hold on to this bitterness as if, oh man, I've got a right to have my life ruined. It's like, if they didn't hurt you enough, you got to hold on to make your life even worse. Where does that come from? The saying is like drinking the poison and hoping the other person dies. And it's like holding on to that resentment. I remember this young guy who was happy, go lucky in his teenage years, stepped into after life, after college, excited about his passion and dharma. Things didn't work out with work. And I met him about, it wasn't 10 years later, but sometime later. He was no longer a joyous person. He was no longer a vibrant expression. He no longer lived with a sense of laughter. Lived with a heaviness. Because there was something that didn't turn out right. And rather than moving into the next chapter, he tried to figure out, I'm going to make it work right here. Sometimes we've got to realize this here spot is really a there spot into the past, and we've got to let it go. Got to surrender. If you realize you're not laughing like you used to, that you're not having as much fun as you used to, that you are not dreaming as big as you once did, that you find yourself exhausted, just possibly there is a root under the soil that is growing that needs to be uprooted, that is contaminating everything else that's going on in your life. There's a story of a small village in Africa. And it had a stream that ran through it. That was its life source and its water. And the people started getting sick. They started getting nauseous and just toxicity or something was going on. After a few weeks, a couple of people actually died from this river. And so, the main city that oversaw this, they sent out a representative or two to check this stream as to what is going on. And so they tested the water and they found out the water was contaminated. That was impacting or poisoning the villagers in this small village. And so the two representatives went upstream a ways to look to see what's going on, what's here. They didn't see anything. They spent a couple days heading upstream. They got to the beginning of the stream, the head of the stream, where it was fed by an underwater spring, I guess. And they looked around and there was nothing that was contaminating the river. And so they sent a diver into this stream or this river. And as they dove down, they went to the source of the spring and they discovered the pregnant, fat pig that had fallen in this water and drowned with all of its piglets and was wedged right at where the spring was feeding. And so you had this pure water coming out of the ground, going by this infected, decomposing pig that went downstream and poisoned everyone. And so they went ahead and they pulled, the pig out, and the water that came out was pure and good and everything was wonderful. But really the intention of the story that I'm sharing with you is you got to get rid of that dead pig that is messing up the water and the pure flow and the stream in your life. That contamination is coming from some bitter root. There is something you got to forgive what took place. Because things happen in life. They do. Stuff happens. That's what being human is about. And you can hold on to that and stop your laughter and stop your dream, or you can choose to be forgiving and let it go and surrender that and allow it to be what it is and not continue to be in that place, but also not allow it to impact you any longer. This week in the practitioner class, we were talking about the classic story everybody knows about the prodigal kid. And we've told that, goes away, comes back. Dad gets all excited, right? You know the story. Dad says, hey, kill the fatted calf. My son has returned. How wonderful, how exciting. And he's back, he's born, and they have a big party. But the part we often forget about is the older brother who's out working in the field and just, doing what dad has always told him to do, never went away. And he hears this party going on, he hears the music, and he asks one of his coworkers, what's going on? They said, your brother's returned, and they're having a big party. He said, well, I'm not going. So dad goes down and talks to his older son and says, hey, your brother's returned. Let's celebrate. And he says, you just killed the fattest calf that we've got to feed him, and you haven't even given me a skinny goat, and I have stayed here, done everything you've done, and slaved over. I'm not going. And so what I want you to get from the story is that the party went on anyway. The older brother didn't go, but they continued to party, to celebrate, to eat, and to dance. And so you can hold on and allow yourself to be miserable and have a real solid position. This is why I am miserable. And they're going to celebrate anyway. The party's going on in life. You can hold a position, isn't this terrible? Let me tell you everything rotten that's happening on this planet or in this world, and be all upset about it. And you know what? People are going to be celebrating the good that is going on, the blessings that are going on, the healing that is going on, the evolution and the emergence of the greater possibilities. And you can sit there and be all caught up in your conspiracy stuff as to how it's out to get you, or you can join the party and bring to that party your essence, your view, your perspective. But you got to be willing to forgive whatever has got you in that place of bitterness and anger and upset. Yeah. So the thing with this forgiveness is it doesn't condone, doesn't make it okay that, he went off, did that, or they did this, or they got betrayed, or what they did to me. I mean, there's some horrendous things that take place on this planet. I mean, like Poway, as we spoke about last week, or what's going on. It doesn't make those things all right. We don't forgive those acts. But what we choose to do is begin to recognize that the presence of God is possible right there. And that I am not going to be so wedged in this position that I am not available for a higher perspective, a greater healing to take place here and now. If there's something bad or horrendous going on, you get yourself out of there. We don't say you stay there. You don't allow yourself to be abused or continue to be in a horrendous situation. You remove yourself. You want to be present enough. You want to be of clear mind enough to get that. You've got to be willing to move on, because love is what's going to make things okay. And if you're coming from anger, bitterness, resentment, hatred, you make the list. You're not contributing to the possibility of a better party that wants to emerge here. But I'll tell you, when there is manipulation going on, it's because somebody's afraid, right? If there's anger going on, it's because someone is afraid. If there is guilt going on, it's because someone is afraid. And, the absence of love is a breeding ground for that fear to come up. And it is that fear that creates all these behaviors that do not serve your greater harmony, your greater expression, you being the bringer of a greater possibility to a situation that may not be so good. You are the one who gets to begin to look out and see life. And it's not like, you just do it once and that's good. It's not like a one and done kind of thing. It's this forgiveness, it's this letting go, it's this opening up, is a continual, ongoing, unfolding kind of expression here. It unfolds. That's how it works, which is why it is valuable to find people of like mind who will not say, you're crazy. Because there's plenty of people who say, man, you're right to be filled with resentment. You're right to be filled with anger. That's righteous anger. It's right for you to be miserable, be drinking the poison, drinking that piglet water. It's okay. And they continue to stoke that state of being when inside of you there's something that wants to know, I can bring a new thought, a higher perspective. I can forgive. I can step out of that situation and be available to something greater. But you need to find people that support that. You need to find your God squad, if you would. And that's the beauty of this community, is there's people of like mind that support you. I mean, yes, you can have it online, and there's good things that go on online, but there's a beauty of being able to sit in the vibration that Nadine was singing today and feel the whole place resonate, to look around at your brothers and sisters and know that somebody's got your back. The Buddhists call it a sangha. A sangha, a spiritual community. It's valuable. Wayne Mueller, one of the writers of our day, said for thousands of years, people have been gathering in circles around fires, around bodies, around altars. Because you can't do it all alone. That's the beauty of a sangha, a God squad. They're the ones that say, hey, Christian, man, you need to pick your head up, man. It was nasty stuff. But you know what? You got to shake yourself off. You're still here. You're still doing this thing called life. You can be miserable the rest of it, but you got to look. You got to look up. The psalmist, 121st Psalm, it says, I lift my eyes up into the hills for where I get my strength. I lift my eyes up to the hills. That's where my strength comes from. That's where I'm reminded. Sometimes when you're hurting, and you need to forgive, you went full out and it didn't work out. Sometimes you got some friends say, Christian, you got to remember this truth that there's something greater. You got to lift your eyes up out of that pain and that difficulty. You got to forgive. Yeah, man, you got hurt. I'm sorry. You can stay there the rest of your days and continue to give your power away, continue to give them your life. But isn't being hurt once good enough as opposed to having it stretch out for longer and longer? First chapter Timothy, 2 Timothy, it said, for God did not give us the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. Right? That fear stuff doesn't come from God. It doesn't come from a higher perspective that knows what's in that next chapter. But you got to be willing to let go, forgive that previous one. This is where I'm in, and this isn't where the healing's happening. This is where the lesson that's catapulting me to the healing, to the greater yet to be, is coming from. But you know what? I've been given the power of a sound mind, which means I'm not going to give my power away to the very thing I don't want to experience. I'm not going to lay awake thinking about this at 3 a.m., wondering, wow, isn't it expanding this, coloring this, filling it with my life force, giving it more energy, and living in fear. That doesn't make sense if you want healing. And I won't ask you how many have laid awake at night just augmenting the very thing they don't want to experience any longer in their world. We've got to be willing to take that risk, if you would, to step into that new space. But it's scary. I got fear. Fear is it's kind of got a bad rap sometimes, because per se there's really nothing wrong with fear on its own. I get where I'm going with this. We get fear. It's not a terrible thing. It's called being human, right? We came into this world. I'm told that babies have basically two fears: fear of the dark and fear of falling. I don't know how they know that, but that's what I've been told. But then we kind of add to that as we go along. Like fear of abandonment, fear of not being fed, fear of not being able to please. Then we got fear of school, and then you got fear of in relationships, and then the whole pressure of adolescence. I don't know. There's some stuff in there for sure, and then getting into college, and the fear of the work, and family, and then afraid that what's going to happen to the kids. Got to hold on to this relationship, and then the body that's getting aging a bit, and then the big fear of death. And all of a sudden, what I realize is that's just part of doing this human thing, just as long as it doesn't impact you or slow you down. But what happens is, as a kid, hey, no problem. I fall, I get up. I try to walk, I get up. That's the way that works. We remember the first time you rode a bike. Man, it was kind of scary. There's a little fear going on. I could fall. How about the first time you climbed a ladder? Or the first time you kiss somebody, there's a little fear going on, but you realize it was worth it. It was juicy. It was exciting. It was exhilarating to go there. But then we had some things take place, and we didn't risk quite as much. All of a sudden, we allowed that energy to be labeled fear. I got hurt. I'm not going to do this again. It's like it was exciting because fear takes you to the edge of what your comfort is, and I'm going to jump off this high dive. And you'd go for it. And it was like, wow, isn't this wonderful? I'm going to do my first public talk. And wow, I pushed through it, and it was good. But at what point, as we began to accumulate those fears, did we allow it to take away the joy, the laughter, the dreams, the possibilities? I knew someone, they got hit hard by the 2009 recession. Lost a lot in real estate, lost a lot in stocks and bonds, and so they have not invested in real estate since then. They haven't invested in the stock market since then. And we have just gone through the most expansive 10 years and decades in the history of that kind of money-making opportunities. And they didn't lose anything in these last 10 years, but they didn't gain anything either. And the fact that life has moved forward into the computer age and you're still back there writing things by hand is kind of an indication that maybe you did slip a little bit back in the progression. I learned from playing, I share this first service, from Monopoly. But any board game counts. You win some, you lose some, right? You get a house, but then you buy a hotel. You lose a house, but then you get some rent from that. And it doesn't really matter a loss here and a gain there. If you take a look at where you are today, if you are further ahead than when you started the game, you're doing okay. You're winning on this. But if you're caught up about that one house that you lost on the way to your apartment, then you are allowing the fear of whatever, looking for someone to blame, an economy to blame, whatever it is that is holding you back in that place that doesn't serve you anymore. Life is moving forward. We take these hits. We go full out. We don't hit them all. But that's what being human and doing life is all about. We freeze ourselves in the flow of life when we get stuck in a chapter and don't forgive and unleash that energy to get us out of those pages into the next greater possibility that says, step here, come here, be part of this. You're the only one who gets to decide whether you're going to do that or not, and the consciousness that you're going to bring to it. There was a farmer rocking on his porch, old guy, and a stranger came walking up to him and said, hey, how's your cotton doing this year? He said, I don't got no cotton. He said, why? Well, what happened? He said, I didn't plant no cotton. I'm afraid of them boll weevils. Wow, okay. Well, how's the corn doing? I got no corn. Got no corn? Yeah, I got no corn. Why don't you have no corn? Well, I'm afraid of the drought that is coming. Wow, okay. Well, how are those potatoes doing? I don't got no potatoes. I'm afraid of them tater bugs, And it's like, well, what have you planted? Well, I planted nothing. It's like all of a sudden he's living his life afraid to risk because he doesn't want to lose. And that is what begins to happen when we have been hit, when we have been in pain, or when we've been betrayed, or something didn't work out, and we haven't forgiven. We're stuck back there, afraid to risk because we don't want to lose again. You've got to be willing to risk it. You got to be willing to go for it with a sense of joy, like that young kid, who's learning to ride that bike for the first time. Faced that with that exhilaration. There was this young guy who's learning to ride a two-wheeler for the first time without training wheels. I don't know, he's 8, 9, however old, maybe 7, learning to ride a bike. And he pushed this bike to the top of the hill, and there's this old, I don't know if he's an old preacher, rocking on the front porch, probably friends with that farmer. And he's watching this kid trying to learn how to ride a bike. This kid gets to the top of the hill, and he situates himself on the seat. He points the handlebars downhill, and he's shaking all the way down, and boom, starts going faster and faster, and down he goes. And it just scrapes up the arms, the elbows, the mess. Kid pops up and says, I'll be damned. So he picks up the bike, and he wheels it back to the top of the hill, and he gets on that bike and starts going down the hill faster and faster, starts wobbling, boom, down he goes again, rips his pants to shreds, and gets up and says, I'll be damned. And so he goes back up for a third time. The preacher's, rocking, watching. Hey, Sonny. Hey, young guy. Tell you what, why don't you, next time if you fall or however it goes, why don't you say, praise God? Use that phrase instead, praise God. So the kid goes to the top of the hill, gets on that bike, and he points it downhill and starts to wobble, and he goes, and he gets the strength, and he makes it all the way down the hill. He jumps off the bike, and he says, praise God. And the preacher watches, and all of a sudden, this kid's arms, all the scratches start to heal up instantly. His pants miraculously somehow mend themselves and go back together. And this preacher jumps out of his chair, his rocking chair, and says, I'll be damned. No. It's the consciousness you bring to the situation that it really makes the difference within our life and of our world. And if you choose to walk this world with a sense of laughter and with a sense of joy, then you're going to realize that life is for you. Ernest Holmes told us that there's a power within us that is greater than any condition that you can confront. It is greater than any obstacle or obstruction. It is that indwelling presence that it lives within you that is able to express itself because it is the final fact of every situation. It is the final fact of every situation, that indwelling power. That's what's within you. And you get to decide, am I going to allow myself to be trapped by my thoughts of bitterness, of anger, of resentment, or am I going to choose to know that this life is supporting me to get out of where I have been? And all of a sudden, after 3 generations, you know what? We're on to a new dream here, guys. But let us not lose the compassion. Let us not get upset because there is a catalyst that has fired our movement and blame it on that person or that situation. Say, oh, it is them. But recognize that it is the emergence of that greater expression. That's something that guides the universe and the galaxies that is moving through you. That is the wisdom that is operating. And what's going on is your spiritual practices in your life. And you get to say, okay, Spirit, where are you here? What is it that I need to know? Lisa Nichols, who's coming to Seaside, she said that you've got to trust and know that that spirit that is within you is for you and is working together to bring about your greatest good. That spirit, you've got to learn to trust that is within you and know that is working together to bring about your greater good in life. It's all over. It's shouting at us, saying, okay, you've got the option here. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to allow to emerge within your life? Because you are contributing. You are a contributor to it. We are part of the sea, the human sea of the wave and the merging and the wave and the merging. And as you choose to allow yourself to care and to stretch your hands in compassion and be patient and to listen, to help get a splinter out or hold back a toxic, nasty, razor-sharp word that could have easily have come out your mouth, to hold the wounded, to help open their wounds or to close their wounds. You are contributing just as that nurse that holds that little baby and that child, that when that child grows, holds the wounded, and the wounded then goes on to hold someone else who is lost, and that reciprocal unfoldment in life will dissipate and dissolve the toxicity of those older chapters and those stuck positions if you choose to be conscious us, to know that you have a sound mind and that you have the power and the love to make a difference in this world, and that you don't have to do it alone, that we sit in these circles and these tribes and these clans that had a vision that has taken us this far. And you know what? We don't have to storm heaven and say, hey, we got to do it my way, but rather we can become receptive and become that place of the divine download, so we can be the next wave that brings the next idea to our people, to our family, to our community, to our Sangha, to our God squad, that all together we are lifting our environment to a higher place, irrespective of what is being fed to us by a few news outlets and say, isn't this horrible? There's contamination in this river. But someone jumps in there and pulls that pig out. There's someone in your life that is willing to say, you are the one who can uproot the bitter root and be that place where we can have the beautiful expression of Spirit flow forth. And together we will move ever higher in our expression of letting go of those mistakes from the past, whether it's individual or societal or global, as we begin to support that which is greater yet to be, that wants to come through you. God bless us as we do that together. Hey, let's keep it going as we bring Nadine Orisha back to our stage. Nadine +2.
Wow. You're amazing. Wow. Such a blessing. Just experiencing you channeling like that and just giving of your heart and your essence of. Thank you. You all are, I say this, I think, every time I'm up here, how blessed you are to have him. To have the two of them, because it takes two. I know that. So I love you. I love this community and this family, and I feel a part of it, a part of this ministry of lighting up the world and doing this work. So thank you. And here is one of my favorite songs for all of you.
I see trees that are green, red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see trees that are green, red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself,
That is Nadine Risha. Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. Man, those two little boys' cells must just be resonating with music all the time. I think you say you got two backup singers on the way or something. It's moving through them. How blessed they are. So